Hey everybody, welcome to another Good e-Reader video comparison. My name is Michael.
This is Peter.
Today we're going to check out the Amazon Kindle Paperwhite versus the Kobo Glow. As you can see, we're in complete darkness. What we're going to do is turn on each e-reader individually to give you a sense on how the light looks.
Alright, on the left here, you'll see in a second, we'll start with the Kobo Glow. Pretty decent light. Now we'll move over to the Kindle Paperwhite and we'll turn it all the way up. Wow! So looking at it right now, it looks like the Kindle's at maximum capacity and the Kobo has its lights on as well. So it looks like the Kindle is brighter. However, if we press the button at the bottom, we'll see that by where we were when we turned it on, it was only 30%. The Kobo actually goes far brighter than the Kindle by a lot. Very surprised at this when we cracked open the Paperwhite earlier today, that the light pretty much dominated over the Kindle Paperwhite.
Yeah, as you can see that the Paperwhite at full brightness actually looks more white.
It does.
Whereas the Kobo looks a lot more bluish.
To kind of match that, you'd have to turn it down a little bit to eliminate some of that color. But yeah, you are getting a lot more purples and blue out of it, whereas the Kindle's more of a true white in the darkness.
Yeah, and we're not doing any fancy camera tricks here for, to make this look better. This is how it legitly looks in complete darkness. But in light, it actually looks more blue, which is kind of weird. So you can see here, this is the home screen. This is the Kindle home screen. It's definitely been revised from previous iterations. In previous models of the Kindle, everything was in list format. This is proper, and Kobo has retained the same type of home screen, and it's fairly consistent on the Kobo Glow, Kobo Mini, and the Kobo Touch. While we're on these illuminated, let's just check out how a book looks, so we can sort of see these two core devices are aimed obviously at e-reading. So nighttime reading tests for text, I think, is very important.
Alright, so immediately what I'm seeing is the blues are still coming through on this Kobo Glow, whereas the Kindle Paperwhite in the darkness actually looks white. So it looks like you're looking at a well-lit piece of paper in the dark, which I think is really cool. So you can see page turns are pretty much identical. Let's just try to get the same text here. Let's look at some text before we get back into page turns here, just so we can show here. So with the Kindle, you have 8 ranges of text. So you can see here that they all change live. Same with the Kobo Glow. However, the Kobo Glow actually has a lot more settings because you're not dealing with hard press software buttons. You're dealing with an entire slider bar. So things can start getting pretty customized. That's a little extreme, but things can get, you have a lot more settings along this bar than just 8. So I think a lot more customizable, especially with the line spacing. You can see here, you can
Line spacing and margins don't really work on side-loaded books, as we've kind of just demonstrated, but you do have advanced options. Because the Kobo Glow allows you to read in the dark, sometimes you want to make the font a little bit heavier in terms of like weight and sharpness.
You can see it before and after here.
Kobo has more font options than Amazon Kindle Paperwhite. You can actually side load in your own fonts into the Kobo entire line of e-readers. So for more tech-savvy users that really maybe aren't happy with the defaults, but maybe they want their whatever this doesn't have, your classic Times New Roman, or even if you want to go crazy with wingdings. The decision is all yours.
Yeah, so we see the page turnings pretty much identical. They're both running roughly the same amount of internal speed and all that, so it's not going to be worlds of difference between the two. we'll get into some specs later on when we turn on the studio lights to give you full 360 of the devices and show you where all the ports are and all that kind of stuff. This is just to show you what everything looks like in the dark.
Yeah, so this is a nighttime reading test, and we wanted to open up the video to really kind of show you how these were distinctive. And it pretty well, my thoughts are that the Kindle Paperwhite is like a truer white, whereas like the Kobo Glow is more bluish. With studio lights back on, what we're going to do is show you a full 360 of both of these devices on how they stack up against each other. Let me just throw out some specs at you. They both have 6-inch e-ink displays. The resolution is fairly the same, 1024 by 768 for the Paperwhite versus 1024 by 758 for the Kobo Glow. They both have the same amount of internal memory. On paper it says 2 gigs, in reality about 1.4 after it's all said and done. Both of these versions have Wi-Fi, and the Kobo has actually expandable memory for micro SD, whereas the Paperwhite does not. One of the advantages that the Kobo Glow has is that it reads CBZ and CBR files, which are very comic book friendly formats, whereas the Paperwhite does read a lot of formats, but it doesn't do a lot of comic book friendly ones. Peter here's going to give you the full 360.
Alright, so looking head on, they both use similarly high-grade plastic. I really like it. Screen sizes are the same. Looks a little bit strange because the bezel on the Kindle is a little bit bigger. This could... I'm not quite sure why it would be bigger. The only thing I can think of is to make room for a larger battery, because even with the light on, this does last longer. So we're going to look at the bottom here on both. You see you have micro USB ports on both of the devices. The Kobo Glow being the one on the top. You have a hard reset button. You have a LED indicator light and a standby and power button. Nothing going on the right side of the devices. On the top, the Kobo has a slider power button, LED indicator light, and glow on or off button. The Kindle activates the glow via software. Nothing going on top of the Kindle. And on the right sides, this is where it gets interesting. Nothing on the Kindle. However, we have expandable micro SD card slot up to 32 gigabytes on the Kobo Glow. That's where the game changes, because with both of these devices you get, as Michael said, about 1.5, 1.6 gigs after all the operating system stuff is out of the way, but with the Kobo you can further expand that to 32. You have a nice embossed Kindle at the back of the Kindle. Really nice looking, feels great. They both use really high quality hard rubber at the back, so they're both really high quality in the materials they're using. Nothing cheap here. And the Kobo, actually you can remove the back plate and put different colors on it, and you can see they've gone to a much wider argyle pattern than the past versions, and there's still the Kobo logo in the middle.
On a hardware perspective, I think that the Kobo has a little bit more versatility. Even though the resolution is pretty well the same, give or take a few numbers, I think the fact that it has expandable memory and you can actually turn the glow feature completely off with the switch may win some fans. It's also a little bit smaller and it actually weighs a little bit less. You can see that, the main differences side by side. The Paperwhite is a little bit bigger. These are fundamentally the same home screens as we mentioned during the nighttime reading tests. You both could do collections. I think fundamentally that the store experiences are quite different from each other. Whereas Kobo, I think, is a little bit more text heavy. You can see that it pretty well lists all the different things. So games, serials, singles, newspapers, magazines. If you click on a book, this is the type of stuff that you see. Whereas
I don't really like the Kobo store at all. It's not even text heavy, it's just text. Like, that's all you really see, and for you to get anywhere that has anything other than text, you really have to go through 4 or 5 categories until you hit a book finally, and then you can kind of dive deeper into what that book's about. But until you hit this point, there's nothing but just 6 categories of text for you to siphon through till you get to something. So.
Yeah, you saw I got to here within 2 clicks. It took about 6 clicks to get to here. So I do like the Kindle way of doing books here. Starred ratings, you don't see any stars or anything like that there. Samples, both kind of have samples. Both have the ability to like do a wish list type of thing. You can see here plenty of like reviews, pictures of like other books that they released. I think it's kind of cool. You see the customer average ratings and stuff like that. And it tells you if it's X-ray enabled or not. If you're not too familiar with X-ray, basically it tells you who all the main characters are, whenever specific people, places, or things have been referenced, and you could go directly to that page. Kobo is a little bit more basic.
Yeah, it's very bare bones. You buy the book or you don't buy the book. You can preview the book or you don't preview the book. That's pretty much it. There's no reviews or anything like that. You go back to say, what are some other books I can look at? Maybe you want to change categories. You go one step further, and then you're just back to all this text again with no samples or category thumbnails or anything of the sort. It's just all text.
I agree. So I would probably say the Amazon Kindle store wins out in terms of how the books are presented and the amount of like options it gives you. Amazon really does have an expansive ecosystem, and a lot of people leave reviews, and I like seeing reviews and starred ratings and user comments instead of just, maybe a rating or maybe a synapse of the book or so.
So we're going to look at Dungeons and Dragons, about 100 meg file. We should be on the same page here. Here we go. So
loaded pretty fast.
They did, yeah. For a 100 MB file, they loaded extremely fast. So we're going to look at the functionality of how we can get around in these 2 PDFs, because obviously that's not too readable. So first thing you want to do on the Kobo to get there, you can't really pinch and zoom, or else it just kind of thinks you might be turning a page. So that's not going to be the case for this reader. It's a little bit of a couple steps to get there, but you press the bottom to bring up the function list. You press the zoom, and then you can zoom into a amount of kind of magnification you like. Then once you're there, you can X out, and from there you can kind of move it around. Now for e-ink, this is really smooth. This is surprisingly smooth. So you can see how it kind of looks a little pixelated. That's because it's not quite rendered yet. If you let go of it, it then renders and you're back to the full resolution. You see the little mini map up top. You can kind of gives you a guide as to where you are on the page. So it's really good. It's really convenient to get to that sweet spot, and then you can let go and you a little bit more readable. On the Kindle, it's just actually as easy as pinching and zooming. So it's a lot quicker to get to where you want to go, although there isn't that little mini map you can utilize to tell you where you are.
And I like that mini map for that exact reason. When you're zoomed in to a large degree, it gives you an indication on where you are in the document. Otherwise, you can get lost. Let's just try to zoom in on this as much as we can to make those like full screen, just to see like how the resolution stacks up against each other. Again, the Kindle has about 10 pixels difference versus the Kobo, but that's just because honestly, like, it's a bit bigger of a unit. I don't really think 10 really makes a huge degrees, but hey, it might, and we'll leave it up to the readers to judge what they think looks better.
So we're pretty much max zoomed on the Kobo, and the Kindle just has a little bit more, it has a ways to go, and they're both just looking fabulous. I think they look very, very good. We can't actually bring this up anymore because it's maxed out. So
is it just me, or this looks bigger?
It does look bigger, and it's further zoomed in. So you would think with a picture being expanded that much more, it's going to get pixelated, but that's not the case for this. It's actually looking really, really sharp. up close.
So when it comes to zooming within PDFs, whether they're complex or not, it looks like the Paperwhite gives you a little bit more of a zooming feature. It allows you to zoom in more, and it's easier because it's pinching and zooming, as opposed to with the Kobo, you had to click the bottom, you had to click a setting, you had to exit that setting, and then you had to basically drag it with your fingers.
It's so much easier on the Kindle. You can get to wherever you want just by pinching and zooming, and look at that. And you go right back out of it. Whereas with the Kobo, if you're outside this and you're like, how do I get to any sort of zoom functions? You gotta tap the bottom, go to magnifying glass, find that level of zoom you want, X out, and then you can move it around.
One of the things that people often ask us about is how comics and graphic novels and manga, how it looks. And complex PDF documents, especially with lots of pictures, really kind of give you that experience. Do either of these allow you to flip into landscape mode?
Absolutely. It's very simple on the Kobo. You just press this thing that looks like it's falling over on a page. It's a little hard to reach because it's in that corner next to the two corners of the bezel, but you can see there that you're now in landscape mode. Landscape mode on 6-inch readers are pretty much crucial to have because you're making better use of this space that way. So you can see more of the text is a little bit better formatted to this. A little bit zoomed in, which is really nice.
Yeah. So my advice is, because the Kobo Glow does read popular comic book formats, CBR and CBZ, whereas the Kindle Paperwhite does not, you exclusively want to probably read it in landscape mode. You'll get a better experience. Text will be a little bit more pronounced. You'll have to pinch and zoom, or you'll have to zoom in less. With the Kindle, you just go to the settings menu, you go to landscape mode. It's pretty intuitive on what you can do. Now, can you still pinch and zoom and everything?
Absolutely. So in terms of going into landscape mode on the Kindle Paperwhite to get better use of the screen, that's not really the case, because even on portrait you can pinch and zoom to find that sweet spot. So landscape isn't necessary on the Amazon Kindle Paperwhite.
All right, so the Kobo does have, I think, some little more advanced features, but I think in the end, the Kindle Paperwhite does a better job at handling PDFs, mainly because you can pinch and zoom to a higher degree than the Kobo Glow will allow you to do, as we demonstrated with the picture of the Tarrasque there. It really shows you that you can zoom into a higher degree, which is not merely useful, but it's essential, especially with a lot of technical documentations. The Kobo does have the advantage of reading popular comic manga formats in its native format. So it's depending on what type of user you are. If you're really into comics and manga, you probably want the Kobo Glow. If you're just into like technical documents, game manuals, and things like that, if you're more heavily invested in PDFs, you probably want to pick up the Kindle Paperwhite. We pretty well showed you from head to toe these two devices and what makes them different. Peter, what are your thoughts?
It's hard to say, because I wish they were one. You know what I mean? I like the glow light on the Kindle Paperwhite for its quality, but I like the glow light on the Kobo Glow for its brightness, because it's so very bright, but you end up coming across a little blue. I like the Kindle Paperwhite for its size. It's nice and thin, it feels good in your hands, but you only get 1.6 gigabytes of storage. And sure, there's cloud storage, but to get fully customizable, you don't have a 32 gig micro SD card slot on the Kindle. You have it on the Kobo. So, I like them both equally, but I'd have to say, for an e-reader, and what is a primary use of an e-reader? To read books. I would have to say it's more comfortable on the Kindle, both PDFs and books, and with the glow light, it's just better on the Kindle.
I would probably recommend the Paperwhite as well. I love Kobo as a company. I think they're doing great things. I'd say that the light on the Kindle Paperwhite is better. The Kobo Glow is brighter. It does illuminate, in a dark room. It has way brighter of a screen, whereas like the Paperwhite, it's not as bright, but you don't get that blue tinge. And you'll see it with our upcoming reviews where we compare these against the Nook Simple Touch with Glow Light on what I really mean. I do like the home screen. I think the store experience on the Kindle is like way better. I think just like the way that they present themselves. You know, there's more information and more things to click on here than there is here. There's no home button. You get a home button here, but I do like the unified bar here. It's very reminiscent of like internet browsers, where like it's very consistent. You know, you have your settings, you have like your home button, you know, your back button and things like that. I would probably suggest, if you can get your hands on a Paperwhite, to get it. They're very hard to get your hands on right now. It's basically only available in the US, but it won't be hitting the rest of Europe until late November. So if you want to get these in time for the holidays, check out www.shopereaders.com to purchase any of these devices, the Paperwhite or the Glow. This has been a comparison of the Kobo Glow versus the Amazon Kindle Paperwhite. If you want to see more videos, check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/goodereader. And for all the latest news, reviews, previews, and industry coverage, check out our website, goodereader.com. And for Good E-Reader, my name is Michael.
This is Peter.
Everybody take care.